That endless seeming top of the Burj Khalifa, those ever shining gold walls of the Burj Al Arab, the luxury of cars, and that desert safari with Thars. If heaven were on earth, it was nowhere but Dubai. And how fortunate I am that I got to spend my entire elementary schooling in so called heaven. But oh, I remember the shock when my parents chose to come back to India and how. Namaste everyone, I am Atharv Misra and today I'll be talking about the pursuit of happiness. My pursuit of happiness. So, as soon as I might have introduced this topic, many of you must have gotten a flash of Will Smith and his son sitting on the railway station in the movie. And oh, what an iconic movie it was, The Pursuit of Happiness. And if you see, I'm pretty much here to reiterate the same idea as the movie, that happiness is a choice, but I'll also be stating the how and the why of it. So, circling back to my Dubai story, this incident took place during the advent of the second wave of COVID 19. And as you all know, during that time, all international flights had been suspended for a while. And damn, that while was way too long. You see, what had actually happened was my father had left for India to get the shifting preparation started. And when it was our turn to take the flight suspension got announced. Now, you must be wondering, why didn't I just leave with my father? Well, my sister's last 12th grade board paper was scheduled in a couple of days. And just because of those couple of days, we were stuck up in Dubai for a couple of months. Now, it must be hard for some of you to digest the fact that I eventually started to feel stranded in the city of the free. I started to feel not so happy in the city of happiness. I mean, how did that happen? The Burj Khalifa was still standing there sparkly as ever. Now, the transition from Dubai to India was rather smooth. And this question did not pop up in my head ever again until I came across this little science experiment on the internet. I'll come back to that experiment in a bit, but before that, I want to address a very basic query. We are all taught these superficial sources of happiness: better grades, better amenities, big sparkly cities, bigger cars. But if you observe, in the last so many years, we humans have achieved so much. We are now richer, we now live longer, and we have access to technology that would have seemed science fiction just a few years ago. But you see, the paradox of happiness is that even though the objective conditions of our life have improved dramatically, none of us, I mean none of us, can guarantee if we have gotten any happier. Why? Particularly because of these materialistic achievements. Now, with that thought in hand, I would like to come back to that little science experiment I was talking about. So, this is the famous double slit experiment. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go into the details of this because I can already see happiness fading off people's faces as I named the experiment. So, there always has been this long standing debate about whether an electron is a wave or is it a particle. And the aim of this experiment was also to pretty much figure this out. Now, to explain this experiment in the most basic way possible, as can be seen in the picture, there were two slits through which electrons were passed using an electron gun. But the scientists were shocked to observe that these electrons were behaving both as a wave and as a particle. This is known as the wave-particle duality. So what was happening is these electrons were behaving differently upon who was watching them. So when the scientists focused on these electrons, they were appearing as particles, and otherwise they were appearing as waves. This is known as the observer's effect. Let's understand this with an example. It's always easy with examples. So when there's no teacher in class, we might rejoice, we'll sing and dance like a wave. But as soon as that old grumpy math teacher enters, we freeze with confusion like a particle. Here it's the teacher's effect. In physics, we like to call it the observer's effect. So as we all know, and we have studied in our elementary classes, that we are made up of atoms, which are made up of electrons, neutrons, and protons. So that means this bizarre phenomenon applies to us as well. Now, taking reference from this double-slit experiment, we can conclude that our focal point of attention and energy can also be manifested in our physical world because energy and matter are interconvertible. The way we see the world creates the world we live in. And the brain is the receptor of all feelings, emotions, and experiences. And the brain is the only one responsible for the result. So if we can change the way we look at things, we can fool our brain into thinking that we have more good days than bad. So audience, although it's quite dark in here, let's imagine if this hall was well lit. And then if I were to ask you to focus on any red object, and then I will ask you to focus on any green object. Pretty simple task. So what I told you was to focus on a red object, and then focus on a green object. But what if I asked you to focus on both these objects at the same time? Could you do it? I'll give you a second to think. Well, the answer is a no. Why? Because we cannot focus on two things at the same time. Now, taking analogy from the same, let's explore our minds and emotions. We have all types of emotions within us at the same time. But it's up to us to choose which emotion we want to focus on. So if we focus on sadness, happiness disappears. And if we focus on happiness, sadness disappears. The mind is a projector, and the world is just a projection of your own mind. We see things by filtering them through our own perceptions and beliefs. So if we can change the way we look at things, the things we look at also change. This understanding gave me a sense of freedom. It gave me a sense of control. It gave me the reign of my life in my own hands. A simple tip to be happy is to respond and not to react. For example, when there's somebody talking loudly on the phone, it has happened with many of us, and you cannot do anything about it, instead of getting angry or annoyed, look for that hidden positive angle. So what can be that positive angle in this situation? Why can't we feel glad that we have the ability to hear? There are many people in this world who don't. So here, the focus shifts from complaint to gratitude. If you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. You may be surprised by how much you can brighten someone else's day. So count your blessings every day and feel blessed for all the good things in your life. As Sterling K. Brown once said, that gratitude is an attitude and it brings amazing contentment to life. I wish I had this realization before I went through all those stages of anxiety, depression while I was stuck up in Dubai. Well, you know what they say, it's better late than never. So today, I, Atharv Misra, want you all to take this pledge of happiness with me. That from now on, we decide to look at everything in life with a lens of love and happiness. And that we make a conscious decision to direct our neurons to love and happiness. Now, what are neurons, you must be wondering? Well, they're the chemical lochas we all have. So, that's why we should always be careful with what we want to manifest in our life. Because once we do that, we will have the free will to make the choice between love and hatred, the choice between joy and depression, and between happiness and sadness. And I, Atharv Misra, choose joy, love, and happiness. And I end my speech with the subtle hope that you do too. Thank you.